Welcome to the experience of the TTT Josie Gray Show, where truth and transparency in life's challenges bring help, hope, and healing.
Listen now as Josie tells the truth about personal growth and spirituality, relationships, health, and finances.
Tell the truth, Josie. Well, hello, and thank you so much for that introduction. This is Josie Gray. As they said, thank you guys. Today, we want to talk about, first of all, we want to acknowledge the fact we've lost some more lives in people who we may or may not know, but in the Las Vegas event. First of all, let's just take a moment and consider them and consider their families, because that's another loss that our country and our nation has experienced. And we dare not start this podcast without making that known. That being said, welcome. This is the first one. We're so excited to have you here, and we're not going to be here very long, but I just want to share something with you, and thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be reading today from 2 Samuel, the 11th chapter. We're going to be talking about distractions and what distractions can do to you and your life. So let's begin to read. We're in 2 Samuel, the 11th chapter, and the first verse. And it says, "And it came to pass, after the year was expired, at the time when kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him, and all Israel. And they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem." Now let's take a moment to look at that. How many times have we had things that we were focused on? We had goals, we had things written down, we were determined of what we were going to get done, whether it was something in the home, or whether it was something in your career, or something in your personal life that you set aside and sat down and said, this is what I'm going to do. But something comes by to distract you. Women, now I know you understand this. You know how we start cleaning in the house, or we're doing something for the children, or we may be doing something for a loved one, our spouse or whomever, and then a phone call disrupts you. Or, God forbid, something happens and it's an email. How many of us stay on our phones, Facebook, Instagram, etc., and we get distracted? Before we know it, what we plan to do, we fail to do. And I want to encourage you today. You want to stay focused on what you're doing and not allow whatever those distractions are to hinder you. So we're going to come back to that in a little bit. Let's read the second verse. Second verse says, "And it came to pass in an eventide that David arose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself. And the woman was very beautiful to look upon." Now let's put another pin there. Okay, guys, listen. Years ago, when I was raised by my grandmother and my uncle, who are older, and they always taught us, if you look too long, you'll end up looking wrong. Meaning, if you glance too much at something, it's called a distraction. Before you know it, you're engulfed in that thing. Before you know it, it's captivated your attention, and then you're distracted. We're not just talking about situations where it's relationships or sexually. You know, we always think the greatest distraction is, a sexual distraction, whether it's adultery or fornication or whatever we call it. But here's the thing. You can look too long at a career that doesn't belong to you. You can look too long at a home that you want, and you're coveting your neighbor's home, house, cars, so many other things. We want to encourage you today. You want to focus on what God has given you and what you have set aside to accomplish for your own life. How many times do we compare ourselves to others? We think we're not good enough, or sometimes we think we're better than them, and we wonder why they're doing so well, why we're not doing as well, but yet we're not focusing on ourselves. So again, that's another distraction. That's another hindrance. Let's go back to the scripture. The third verse says, "And David sent and inquired after the woman." Stop. He started asking questions. Why? David, first of all, was supposed to be on the battlefield. How many of us, now listen, let me just break this down and put it this way. When you have set a goal for your life and you've determined there are things you want to do, it's a battlefield. Life is a war. And oftentimes we forget that you are in the midst of a consistent, constant battlefield. We have to stay conscious about this and be conscientious of our actions every day, what we're doing, how we're doing it, and even who we're doing it with. Because many times what happens is we'll get involved and connected to people that were never assigned for our lives. Listen to the rest of this. It says, "And one said, Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" That was David's answer right there. But yet he continued to pursue this woman. He knew she didn't belong to him. He belonged to someone who was in his camp. This man is out there giving his life potentially for his king. Ultimately, what ended up happening, David took her. The next verse tells us. And David sent messengers and took her. And she came in unto him, and he lay with her. Pause for another second. Listen to this. Why in the world did this awesome king who loved God, who was a worshiper, allow himself to look too long at something that did not belong to him? Allow himself to pursue what did not belong to him? Allow himself to get engulfed in his emotions, in his flesh, in his fleshly desires, and what he wanted at the time? We do the same thing. We're not beating up on David. We're talking about us. Guilty. Let me raise my hand. There are many times and many things I pursued knowing that I didn't need them, knowing that they didn't belong to me, if not necessarily then or at all, not at all, as in meaning God saying, not now. Sometimes he says delay and wait. But we'll get caught up in God says I'm going to have it. God says this is what's great for my life. This is my destiny, etc., blah, blah, blah. And we try to get our hands on those things before it's timing. And I want to encourage you, you want to make sure that you're in the right timing of what God is assigning for your life. Because just because he says something is for you and you get it in the wrong timing, you may mismanage and mishandle what he's assigned to your life. Then ultimately, you totally caused yourself to have to go around that same mountain again, that same situation, that same test, so you can pass it. And then, unfortunately, you lost more time. You potentially corrupted what was a blessing because you took what wasn't yours or was designed to be yours, but in the wrong timing. So we want to be careful about seasons. And so where it talks about David sent messengers and took her, let me ask you this question. How many times have you went and bought a house, pursued a career because you were disgruntled or unhappy in the one you're in, but you really knew your timing wasn't up there? There was a purpose for you being there. There were some more things that needed to be worked out in you. There was some more growing and maturing that needed to take place, but you wanted to jump the gun. Let me raise my hand again. I've done it. So that being said, I'm talking from personal experience here. I know from, again, personal experience, things happen. We have to, first of all, be accountable for what we've done to cause those challenges in our lives. Let me just say this. Many times in the Christian world, we want to blame the devil. Oh, the devil did this. Oh, the devil did that. Oh, the enemy, yada, yada, yada. Not taking accountability for what we've done with our own hands, with our own actions, in our own might and in our own strength, and then forgetting there are consequences. So let's get back to this. The purpose of this is to remind you that distractions are going to come. We have a world and a nation where people do things that other nations really don't tolerate. However, in the United States, we tolerate things that they don't really tolerate in our third world countries, our brothers and sisters in third world countries. But what ends up happening here, so many people get away with things. People feel like they can just take people's lives and then take their own. For example, what just took place in Las Vegas. That somehow was a gentleman who got distracted. What his situation is, I don't know. Am I judging him? Absolutely not, because I don't know what his life was. But here's the thing. This is an example we can look at of what happens when we allow life and actions that we take upon ourselves to do. Now, someone said, I cannot prove this. Let me put that opinion in right there. I have not studied this, but I was told that it was stated on the news that this awesome gentleman decided that he was going to spend up some things concerning his life savings and his wife's life savings. Again, I cannot prove that. I haven't read that, but that's what I was told by someone else who watched the news. That being said, they said he was in Las Vegas and had spent up the money. Unfortunately, he made a choice. He made a decision that not only impacted he and his wife, it impacted hundreds, thousands, the nation even, tens, hundreds of thousands of people, including you and I, millions, because everybody's heard about it. I want to encourage you to remember, every decision you make has a ripple effect. We many times think that this is my life, this is my choice, I can do what I want to do with it, and we allow that distraction to come and overtake us, to consume us. But we forget that there are people who we love and care, who love and care about us, and who we love and care about, that we affect. I want to encourage you today. Your life is not just about you. Do your best not to allow distractions and hindrances to cause you to make a decision that's going to ultimately negatively impact your life and the lives of those you care about. Maybe you're single. Maybe you're saying, oh, my family's all passed away. But your life is still important. Your actions are still important. You still have breath in your body. You still have an opportunity to make your life great. You still have an opportunity to make a difference with your life. This is Joe. Again, thank you for joining me on the Triple T Josie Gray Show, where Josie tells the truth.